Donyale Luna was born originally named Peggy Ann Freeman in Detroit, Michigan on August 31st, 1946. Her family was far from wealthy, and her parents worked hard to provide as her father, Nathaniel, worked for a Ford Motor Company, and her mother, Peggy, worked as a receptionist at the YWCA. Donyale Luna was the first black model to really change things, as she was able to overcome deep prejudice in a time of racial violence and complications to land a stellar modeling career that would help pave the way for future non-white females trying to succeed in the fashion industry. The young dreamer and fantasist invented her alter ego during her teenage years for her own self-makeover. She was described by a relative as being a very weird child, even from birth, living in a wonderland, a dream. After school hours, Donyale started to work as an actress doing small parts in Detroit's repertory theaters. In 1964, David McCabe, famous for his photography, discovered Luna in the streets of Chicago. He recalled being stunned after his first sighting of Luna wearing her kid's school uniform. David described Luna as being tall and slender and having the most incredible bone structure. He was so astounded by Luna's beauty that he invited the 18-year-old to New York. After Luna's arrival in New York, she was introduced to Nancy White, a well-known editor for the Harper's Bazaar magazine during the 1960s.
White was easily amused by Luna's unique image, and so she had Luna sketched by an illustrator, and in no time the result was released on the cover of the January 1965 edition of Harper's Bazaar, the first ever to feature a black model.
After only just a short time of being in New York, Luna seemed to have been getting into trouble rather quickly. According to an article published in Time magazine, and I quote, "A month after hitting New York, she married a young actor, divorced him after 10 months, and now will not even give his name." Luna was also a very controversial celebrity when it came to the Civil Rights Acts of the 1960s. She was hesitant in interviews when asked on her opinions on the historic movement, and in one interview stated, "The Civil Rights Movement has my greatest support, but I don't want to get involved racially," she once said. In another 1968 interview, when asked if she hoped that her success might open more doors for African American women, she replied, "If it brings about more jobs for Mexicans, Chinese, Indians, Negroes, groovy. It could be good, it could be bad, I couldn't care less." Remarks like these did nothing to support the minorities facing segregation in America, and for the remainder of her career, Luna remained determinedly disengaged. Remarkably for a rookie, Luna had skipped modeling's apprenticeship stage of endless castings and rejections, and had come straight to the top. Despite Luna's early successes in America, she was forced to relocate to Europe, where at the time racial segregation against African Americans was not as severe and she was more in demand. After leaving America, Luna was soon in David Bailey's London studio, where he photographed her for the cover of the March 1966 edition of British Vogue. It was the first time the fashion magazine had featured an African American female on its cover. The photograph was Luna covering her whole face with her hand, except for her boldly outlined eye. Reportedly, that shot was chosen so as to not offend the magazine's regular audience. At the time, this historic cover went unnoticed by the African American press back home, and who instead focused more on the first black female featured on the cover of the American version of Vogue magazine, who was Beverly Johnson. As the years passed by, Luna went on to pursue an acting career starring in many of Andy Warhol's films, including Camp and Fellini Satyricon. Luna's popularity soon allowed her to be photographed by people such as William Klein, Richard Avedon, Helmut Newton, William Claxton, and the legendary David Bailey. Luna's success had also brought her many friends whose names are very well known, such as Mick Jagger, Mia Farrow, Julie Christie, and Yul Brynner. Although fame had brought Luna a great amount of success, it also brought with it many problems. Luna was soon at the peak of her career, heading on a downward spiral as she began to rely on drugs. Luna confessed in an interview that she had been taking LSD and stated, "I think it's great. I learned that I like to live, I like to make love, I really do love somebody, I love flowers, I love the sky, I like bright colors, I like animals. LSD also showed me unhappy things. that I was stubborn, selfish, unreasonable, mean, that I hurt other people. Eventually, her drug habits had affected her work life to the extent that Luna had begun to start dissing bookings and blowing off interviews. Beverly Johnson, Luna's fellow black model, complained about Luna's odd behavior, stating, "She didn't have a hard time, she made it hard for herself." By this time around, Luna's career had begun to decline drastically. After years of drug abuse, Luna died of an accidental heroin overdose at the age of 32 on May 17, 1979. Luna left behind an 18-month-old daughter named Dream, and a legacy that will forever be a staple in history. Luna, the first African-American woman on the cover of Vogue magazine, and the world's first African-American supermodel.